Hello and welcome to the Pages Pixels podcast, where we talk about new movies every week. I'm Rohan,
I'm Keerthana.
and today we're talking about The Wild Robot, which is about after a shipwreck, an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. So before we go into this movie, let's talk about what were you hearing about it? Did you see any trailers?
I did. And I had been hearing rave reviews all around, including from you before I went and watched it. There was a lot of, everyone obviously really liked it. This movie's been really well rated. So I was very excited to check it out. And it didn't totally disappoint. I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I did not see any trailers prior to seeing the movie. I had kind of heard of it, and I had heard that because I think way before the movie even came out, when they had shown at I think at CinemaCon, I heard that they showed some footage of it. I think some critics got really, really early access to watch it, and I had heard good things, and then the reviews came out, and so I went in to watch it almost blind, other than the fact that I've heard that it's a good movie. I didn't know any of the cast. I didn't see any of the trailers. I loved it.
Yeah. For context, Rohan sent a text saying that he loved it and that it's one of his favorite animated movies of all times.
I said it was the best animated movie of the year.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so when I walked into that theater, I was expecting it to blow my socks off. It was pretty good. It was interesting. What clearly it worked for you. Yeah. What worked for you?
There's a bunch of things. I think, first of all, the emotion of it.
Right.
I think it, again, if I'm focusing on this year, I don't think there's another movie that hit me as hard emotionally as this movie did. Again, I think the comparisons are going to be, because that's the other big anime movie this year, Inside Out 2.
Right.
Inside Out 2, nowhere compared to this movie in terms of the emotional impact. Both in theaters watching it, and then I rewatched Inside Out 2. I liked it a lot less this time around. This movie really, really got me. I also loved the visuals of it and the art style. I think Chris Saunders, the director, even said that he wanted it to be like a Monet painting meets a Miyazaki forest.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It's like a perfect way to describe it. A lot was going on in this film. The art style is probably my favorite part of the film. I thought it was solid, and I feel like the whole let's make it look like a painting really got to me after the Spider-Verse movies came out. And I think that the style specifically works as a very good creative choice because it gives you the liberty to kind of break form almost, like they can have an abstract shot in there. And I love those. They were really cool. It's also fascinating to me how every single time they make an animated movie, they make an inanimate object feel so human. It's ridiculous. I thought that was great. I also thought that the cast was really good. All of them were big names, but when I was watching it, nothing stuck out to me exactly, and it was very immersive. Also, this is weird, but this both worked and didn't work for me, and that's the dialogue. I thought in some parts where when Bright Bill, who's the little goose, I thought his dialogue was great. Like the voice, the fact that he's socially awkward and only speaks like his mom, who's the robot. All that worked really well for me. In some other places, it felt clunky, but we'll come to that later. So yeah, lots going on. Great movie.
Do you like the possum's death jokes?
I did. Oh, they were so dark.
Funny. I also love that the movie wasn't afraid to hold back.
Yeah.
It's like they weren't like, oh no, it's a kid movie, we shouldn't joke about that. It's like, no, we're gonna joke about a bunch of kids dying in this movie.
They did too, and that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think especially when the mom is like, I'm a mother to 7, and then
6.
You hear a sound. Oh, 6.
Yeah, no, that was solid, and I thought most of the jokes landed like really well for me. I also really liked the Fox thing. I thought he was a great addition.
He was one of my favorite characters.
I feel sad that foxes get such a bad rep. Like in every movie, they're the annoying, lying, whatever.
Was the character of the fox like that, or did it subvert your expectation?
Did not. He was like that. He was like that. He was well. That was his arc.
Yeah. He was like what? Sorry.
He was like a stereotypical fox, as you would write it, as in Zootopia, as in Dora and the Explorers. You know, like he was just doing all the fox things.
Yeah, selfish.
Well, I mean, it worked in this one because it's a big part of his arc. So I thought it was very cleverly done. I think if I had to describe this movie in one word, I would say clever. Because the way they placed the plants, the way they paid each of it off. Oh yeah, like it was pretty cool. Yeah.
I think the only thing that didn't work for me was kind of the final fight was good. Beautifully animated. I like the story telling that's happening and seeing all of the animals of the forest kind of come together to defeat the evil robots. The only thing that doesn't work is kind of the beginning and ending for me, because it starts with the other robots coming to take Roz back, and Roz going, "I don't want to go back," and the animals going, "We want to keep her here."
Yeah.
And this is big fight that the animals and Roz end up winning. And then at the end, she comes to the realization that, hey, they're just going to keep coming for me.
Right.
So I have to go.
Yeah.
I think logically it makes sense.
Right.
But theoretically, you could take out that entire sequence and there's no impact on the story.
Yeah.
And there's this old screenwriting saying where if a scene is removed from your movie and and the ending does not change, you probably don't need that scene.
Yeah. No, I agree. That definitely stood out to me as well.
Yeah. I think if they just added another reason for her to leave, just one little line of dialogue could have fixed that.
Yeah. What would you say that line of dialogue would be?
I mean, I don't know. It could have been like it could have been that the evil robots were trying to destroy the forest and the animals, and the reason for the fight was Roz protecting them, and then realizing that in order to continue protecting them, she has to leave. Instead of the entire conflict of the fight being she wants to stay, and they want her to stay.
Yeah. No, I see the I see the concern, and I see the pitch. I mean, yes, that definitely was one of the things that didn't work for me. I felt that the flip was a little too quick.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they had even spread it out a little more. The movie was pretty short. I think what was it? I think the runtime was
like
less than 2 hours for sure.
Yeah, it was like an hour 40, but that includes credits.
Yeah, so I mean, they could have given me another 10 minutes, and I would have been okay with that. So that definitely stuck out. I did have a couple of other issues with the film. The first thing was that I feel like it did feel a little choppy to me. Just the way the story flowed. Like an example would be when Bright Bill is going on his first, when they're going, like when they go past the factory or whatever, like bio whatever, right? When they go past that for the first time, we see this fight scene of like them almost escaping and everything, and that scene just felt cut off to me. Like I kept waiting for it, the film to cut back, but they just never did.
Maybe I feel like that was intentional.
Right. So I was just gonna get to that. Like maybe they did that because they didn't want to show that other goose dying or whatever. I just feel like the scene out, didn't work for me. It felt a little abrupt. I think the same thing. I don't know if they were trying to tease a romance with that other goose and Bright Bill.
I never felt that way.
I was expecting a romance there, and I wonder if maybe it was just cut for time, or the storyline just they didn't care for it. That felt a little like I wish I could have seen that character again, because I thought there was opportunity for that.
Got it. I personally see the reason why I disagree with, especially the romance one, is, well, it is a bit of a trope.
Right. Yes.
And I think that their instinct to avoid the trope was good, but I think that scene works for me because maybe he was attracted to this female goose, but I feel like the point was he can't even have a conversation with anyone without kind of the bullies coming in, calling out Runt and being like, "Hey, you're weird," raised by the robot, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I will say that initially I was a little disappointed with the whole, like, he's different from everyone else, like, trope of it all.
Yeah.
But the way that's what I meant when I talked about the plans and the payoffs. The way they bring it back at the end and he, like, leads everyone out of it, that I thought was almost genius.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming, so it was very satisfying to see that. Outside of that, I thought some of the dialogue was a little clunky, like I said earlier on. Listen, it got me. Like, it got me, like, super emotional and, like, on the edge of my seat. But I wonder if it could have been more show than tell. In some spots, I felt like this dialogue is meant to get me, and it did. But I wish it had just come more maybe from the actions.
Really?
I'm trying to think of the examples.
Big thing that I disagree on.
Yeah. I'm gonna think of the examples, and if they come up, I will tell you.
Yeah.
But that was, like, a little frustrating for me. And I know that the medium kind of allows for you to do that, because even if you take Inside Out, they're not subtle really.
Oh, not at all.
About anything. But here I thought, actually, let me think of an example, and if it comes back, then maybe we'll touch on that. Unless you want to go ahead.
Well, actually, the show and tell thing is that's kind of one of the things I wanted to focus on, because the reason why I completely disagree with that is because I think this movie is excellent in terms of visual storytelling. I think there's a bunch of scenes that have very little dialogue,
right?
Or sometimes even no dialogue, and they are deeply moving. In fact, I feel like I could watch this movie, turn off the dialogue, and
nothing would change.
I can still follow it. Which, again, film being a visual medium, I think that is important. I'm actually going to bring up Star Wars as a comparison. Personal story.
I think I know
regarding Star Wars.
Okay.
And I'll get a little controversial because I'm going to talk about The Last Jedi, which, by the way, I loved. Yes.
Nice.
That last one, Rise of Skywalker, did not love. But I was watching. My sister and I, we were doing a rewatch of the Star Wars movies. My grandma was there. My grandma does not speak English, although she is watching it, and despite not being able to speak the language, she is able to understand the plot of The Last Jedi.
Right.
But The Rise of Skywalker, she was like, "What is this? This is a mess." I think that exemplifies the visual storytelling where when you don't even understand the language, you can still follow it and you can still enjoy it. I feel like this movie works the same way.
Yes, and I agree with that on a zoomed out level. Because I thought the dialogue, some of it came across as a little preachy.
Okay.
And I would have liked to learn what I was learning from that dialogue through actions instead.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder if this was just a runtime thing. Maybe if they had another 20 minutes, they could have taken the time to show me.
It might have been runtime, but it also might have been a target audience thing.
Sure, because I can see that as well.
Yeah, so we are in our 20s loving this. I'm sure people older than us will also love this movie. But you gotta dumb it down for the little kids.
No, I understand. I'm just saying that if I had to find, I'm just saying that part kind of threw me off. The last thing so what I think the difference between this being, oh my god, this is one of the best movies ever, versus this is a good movie for me. I think that the reason that it fell off that was because I just found it a little difficult to relate.
Okay.
Especially to the robot. Yeah. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I just her arc was interesting. I mean, on paper it was there and I saw the shift and everything. It's just I don't know, there was just Inside Out really, really worked for me because I saw myself literally in Riley. I couldn't find a character to do that with in this film. Now, again, that's obviously personal and subjective, but that's probably why I downgraded it from this is the best movie ever.
I do think you can say that she doesn't have a huge arc, but then I also think that I'm going to compare it to Paddington, where Paddington does not himself does not arc, but he causes the others to arc.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of... I think you need an arc in some way. Your main character does not have to arc, as long as your other characters do.
Yeah, no, I don't think that my problem was that she didn't have a big arc. I just think that I didn't relate to the whole, like, mother emotion of it all. You have a dog, so maybe you like
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe my mom was
because I
like...
definitely did feel, like, so emotionally invested in that whole story of motherhood.
Yeah. No, it's just... Yeah, I just, like, the whole motherhood angle didn't... I just didn't relate to it. And it kind of felt like the movie was saying, relate to it now. And maybe that's what turned me off from it also. But again, fun movie. Just some stuff didn't work for me.
The author of the original story, Peter Brown, actually stated that there was a moment in the film that made him cry, and he felt that the movie did do a service to his book. Previously, some animated adaptations, such as Howl's Moving Castle, the author was not particularly pleased with the adaptation. So my question to you two is, as a screenwriter, how much do you feel it is in the writer's interest to honor the original material when adapting for a feature film?
That's such a tricky question, Kevin. We took 2 classes on adaptation. And I think what I really took away from it is how close can you stay to the themes and the crux of this and the emotional crux of the story. To me, like, I hate that I'm going to say this, but I think plot is just... It's fine, you can change it. It's like... I would just say plot is almost... the plot is just a tool for your theme, right? So I would say that as long as you stay true to the heart of the story, whatever that might be to you, you're good.
I agree with what you're saying about heart. I mean, I use the word soul, but it's like you gotta capture the soul of the source material. You gotta figure out, like, really learn why do people like this book or this, whatever you're adapting, this video game, this play, and then capture that. A great example of this is Spider-Man, I think, where if I'm going to compare the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, in the comics, Spider-Man, when he shoots the web, he uses a mechanical web shooter. He doesn't have that power, actually. He can stick to walls, but he can't actually shoot webs. In the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, they changed that. They made it to where it's actually the web is coming out of his body.
Little gross, but...
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, who cares?
Yes, sorry. I just...
The white liquid coming out of a teenage boy's body.
Yep. Also, like, I went to Webweaver in my head. From the boys, and I couldn't get that image out of my head. Good God. Okay, sorry.
Doesn't Webweaver shit out his butt?
Yes, exactly.
He does. Like an actual spider would.
Oh God, that's so disgusting. Sorry, yes, go on.
But the Andrew Garfield movies, they changed it. They made it more accurate to the comics, where they did have him use a mechanical web shooter.
Right.
But then generally, and I think people like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but generally I think most people preferred those Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And I think it's because Sam Raimi did a better job at capturing why people loved that character. So even though he made that change, people didn't care.
Yeah. I can say the same thing about the later Harry Potter movies. I know that, I think, especially the 5th one, Order of Phoenix, it does happen pretty differently in that movie. Like, a lot of his stuff has been changed in the Order of the Phoenix, and especially the scene in which Sirius Black dies. Because in the book it's like it's a lot more elaborate, and like he turns into a dog and then he turns back into human and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's the movie worked just as well because they put the parts in place, to make you feel what you were supposed to feel.
Yep.
So plot, I think, is, again, they're like building blocks. Plot is like a set of blocks.
Yeah, and I agree with the plot being exact. Doesn't necessarily have to be there. Watchmen is, I think, is another great example. People did not really love that the movie, I think 2009 Zack Snyder movie. But if you read the comic and you read the movie is kind of shot for shot the comic.
Oh, wow.
But for whatever reason, it does not capture the soul of it. Even I have watched the movie, I've read the comic. Even though it's the exact same story, I can't deny that there is a different feeling that I get from the comic and from the movie. But then the HBO show, I believe, by Damon Lindelof came out, which is nothing like the original Watchmen, and it was great. People loved it. I think it won a bunch of Emmys.
Yeah.
I know for sure it was nominated. Again, it captured the soul of the comic in a way that the movie didn't.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of rave reviews about The Watchmen. I think it comes down to like film and TV, they're inherently different. Screenwriting is an inherently different craft.
I agree.
Than writing fiction, non-fiction, whatever. All of them are. They're all different crafts essentially. But I think it comes down to understanding that there's layers to each of these crafts that might not translate well between each other.
Yeah.
So in a book, a monologue will work, like Ned Stark's lengthy monologues in the books. But you can't bring that to screen, effectively at least. And you have to find a way to, again, bring out the theme and the emotion of all of it without maybe the space that a book would give you.
Let's move on to standout scenes.
Okay. I know I called dibs this time. It's more of a little bit of a sequence than a single scene, I would say. It's when Bright Bill takes off on his first flight, and she has like a little bit of separation anxiety, I think.
Oh yeah.
And she initially just lets him go, and then she just sprints across the forest to go see him one last time, because at that point she believes she's never going to see him again. And when she does that, she stands on top of a cliff and she watches the birds fly away. And what's his name? What's the goose's name? The guy that's leading the migration?
Oh, I cannot.
Longneck?
Yes. Longneck. So Longneck sees her, and then he has Bright Bill and a few others just turn around to go say goodbye to her once. That was hard hitting. That really got me.
That got me and everyone else in my screening.
And then I think they followed that up with a genius beat of her just standing there, and then you can see on her robot body, on her shoulder where Bright Bill used to sit, there's a little dent in the metal.
Yep.
From the fact that he'd been sitting there basically all her life. And that I thought was really good. It got me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is my favorite scene of the movie. Even from the start, where he needs the boost. Mm-hmm. So he starts on her shoulder and she's running while all the other geese are taking off. Mm-hmm. That is my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Because you called it, I'm going to have to go with a different one. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go with the one where after she gathers all the animals of the forest, and they're in the house that she built for them. Just that whole sequence of, because she's tired or has low battery, I guess, so she has to shut down for the night, and Fink has to kind of rally them all together. Great, just to punctuate his character arc, but also just seeing them going from chaos to calm. I know we've seen it in other movies before. I think this movie did it extremely well, where it just felt that the pacing was great. It didn't feel too sudden.
No, it definitely, like, I was expecting it to be a lot more dramatic than it ended up being, which I think really worked.
Yeah. And the humor where it's like the bear spits out like an animal, spits out another animal.
Yeah, the humor was solid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have a question for you before we move on. Because I was thinking about like the film at a scene level. What did you think about the company that owns Ross?
Yeah,
that's her name. Yeah, the company that owns Ross. Like I just kind of felt like I didn't understand why they needed her so badly, or why they would keep coming back to get her. She's just one of their robots.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like they needed an antagonist. Here's one. Yeah, I don't know. I just that because that scene of them taking her up, pretty powerful.
Oh yeah.
But that was because you cared for her, not because you think, oh, this company is evil. You know, like their motivations kind of didn't.
Yeah, I
didn't understand.
I'm guessing they just wanted. It's like okay, it's like it's their technology. Right. They're like, hey, let's get it back.
No, yeah, I mean, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming Braz took a lot of money to make, so.
No, yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess it's the same. It's like sometimes companies can be petty. Like Apple won't let antagonists use their phones.
Time to give this movie a score. Just a reminder, or if you're here for the first time, we use the script coverage scale of pass, consider, and recommend. What that means is pass is when we don't think the movie's all that great, consider is when we think it's decent, and recommend when we think it's genuinely great. As a reminder, this is not a recommendation, it's just the score. So how would you score The Wild Robot?
I would give it a very strong consider.
Okay.
Again, I'm going away from a recommend only because I had like a bunch of things with it that didn't like. It could have been perfect, and it wasn't. So I would say strong consider.
Yeah, this is a strong recommend.
Surprise.
It is. There's a couple of. Yeah, there's a couple of movies this year that are kind of in my top tier. The Wild Robot is firmly in that tier.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say which ones in case we decide to do a top movies of the year thing at the end.
No, we should definitely do it. Yeah. I'm gonna say if you like movies like Wild Robot, I think you should revisit Happy Feet. When I watched it, I was a child. I feel like I might even have recommended Happy Feet in a different episode. I have like a very vague memory. But
was it during Fairy Elsa? Well, it's the same director.
It is the same director. I don't think I don't think I recommended Happy Feet in the Furiosa episode. But the point is, Rohan's mean jokes aside, the point is, Happy Feet was a great movie, and I think they're very similar themes, and especially I think Bright Bill, like Bright Bill is like a really good comp to a character like Pebbles, like Pebbles. Yeah. So Happy Feet, great movie, and if you can check it out, you should.
Yeah. So I'm gonna recommend How to Train Your Dragon. It's one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It's probably my favorite DreamWorks movie. And it's the same, at least co-director as The Wild Robot. Deals with a lot of similar themes, and I know that the movie is something that a lot of people have probably seen, but it did come out I think that first one came out in 2010. So there's a good chance that a lot of people haven't seen it. So if you haven't, highly recommend it, especially if you like The Wild Robot.
Also, if you watch How to Train Your Dragon, you can go and enjoy the new rides that are gonna come up in Universal Florida.
Oh yeah.
They're starting a whole they're adding a whole section to that park. Yeah.
What else have y'all been watching?
Alright, I've been watching Industry on HBO. If you're missing Succession, I think Industry, it's not as good as Succession, but I think it can help fill that void. It's pretty similar, but instead of a big kind of media company, it deals with like a financial company, and you're not following like the CEOs, you're following people, kind of, the traders on the floor, or some of the entry level people. It's a ton of fun. Kit Harington is in the newest season.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, there's a scene where he asks a woman to pee on him. So.
This week I started with the new Disney Plus show. It's called Agatha All Along. I really like WandaVision. I know you did. I genuinely really like WandaVision. So I was, and when WandaVision came out, I was excited that they announced the spin-off. But I feel like they just took forever with like bringing this to TV. So I feel like a lot of the excitement died down just in the internet. But I watched the pilot yesterday. It was okay. I'm still going to watch the rest of the show. I feel like I rarely ever start a show and don't finish it.
Yeah.
Now, is that a waste of time? We don't know. But, I saw the pilot. It was interesting. I'll keep watching it. And hopefully once I finish it, we'll have a chat about that as well. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode of the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Keerthana.
I'm Rohan.
And we'll see you next week with a brand new episode. Thank you.
Thank you.